Hey there, it's Mark from menwhobullet. Thanks so much for checking out today's video where we are going to be going through my second bullet journal. The last video that I did, which was a walkthrough of my very first bullet journal, did so well and I got great feedback and comments that you wanted to see more, so here we are. So my second bullet journal was the official bullet journal from bulletjournal.com, and this took me from January of 2018 through June of 2018. So I had already been through about half a year of bullet journaling. I started in April of 2017. I made all my mistakes in my first journal. I made plenty inside of here as well, but I knew more going into this than I did with my very first one. So I'm excited to share this with you. So what we'll be doing is going through and flipping through some of the more important pages, things that hopefully will bring you inspiration and also that I can talk through to give you a little bit of a deeper look inside of my mind. Why was I making certain decisions? What was going on at that point in my life? And why was I exploring certain things at that time? Now, before we get started, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing here. So let's go ahead and get into it. Second bullet journal right here, starting now. All right, let's kick into it. This is my second bullet journal. This is inside of the official bullet journal. It's still Electrum, which I used for my very first one, but this is the official one that you can get on bulletjournal.com. So as I mentioned before, this one took me from January 2018, and I think I said it went to June, but actually it's July of 2018 that this one took me. So nice 7 months worth of task and productivity happening inside of here. The features of the official bullet journal are actually some of the resources that come along with these pages. So the first thing you'll see over here is that there's an entire built-in key right inside the cover here. So you're able to go through and just kind of write down what you want your actual key to be. I kept it very to the point and very pure. Bullets for a task, crossing them out when it's completed. We'd have the right facing bracket for migrated. We have the left facing one when things are moving back to that future log and are scheduled, a dash for a note, an open circle for events, cross it out if it's not important, and then an asterisk, or you can even do an exclamation point for a priority signifier. There's more room in here as well if you want more specific ones for how you want to run your bullet journal, but that's all that I did here. On the inside page, so last time that I did my review of my first bullet journal, I actually wrote down the grid spacing on a post-it note. This time around, I just wrote it on the inside of the book, and this is something that I do in every single bullet journal that I ever have, is write down that, so it's helpful for me to know as I'm planning out my pages. The other thing that I started to do in this bullet journal, which I still continue to do, is I have a space for open pages. So I don't like to skip pages, but sometimes I will if I need to. So for instance, if I need a double page spread, so that's 2 open pages here, then I might skip a page depending where my notes are. But I always wrote it down because when I had another continuation of a note or a new collection or something that I needed to start, I would come right back in here and I would just find whichever page it was that I skipped, cross it out and write that note there. And then I would put it right here into my index to make sure that I knew where it even was. So for this one, a very well-used index. I will always praise the index as the most important part of a bullet journal. There is no more important thing you can do than making sure you know where everything was. So some of the features of the actual official bullet journal are that a lot of these pages are already marked, so your future log goes here. How you want to set that up is completely up to you. You have the page numbers that are also in the bottom corners, which I really appreciate and I miss sometimes in my bullet journals, especially for ones that don't have it. Now, some of the coolest features inside of here is this came with 3 of these ribbons, which I always found super helpful. I would usually keep one with my monthly, and then I would keep whatever with like a note, and then my week that I was currently on, so I could easily find them throughout the week. The other features of the official bullet journal is all of the resources here. So the bullet journal method and how it works and all of those pieces were all back here. So you could read through here and really understand the information and the theory behind the method. Now, all of this information you can also get online. It's not any different than what you can read online on bulletjournal.com, but it's all right here for you. And I really like that because it was easy to go to and reference, especially since I was still learning. So my future log was here, nothing overly crazy here. One thing that you can see though that I did is when things got really busy, I started to highlight certain days. This is when my kids were doing cheerleading, they were in swim, we had Girl Scouts going on all at the same exact time. So a lot of things were happening. So it was really helpful for me to mark out the dates that those were. So however you want to use your future log and colors, it's totally up to you. My hashtag page, so I like to always have these inside of my bullet journal just for myself. Maybe I see something online that I liked or a new hashtag that I want to follow, and I would keep all of them in here. I would also tag these a lot in my photos, and these were just some of my favorite accounts at the time that I was either interacting with, reaching out to, or tagging. So I think most of these people are still relatively active. I know, Lame Journal is, and the Happy Ever Crafter, so awesome. The Boosted Journal, though, I don't know that he's still online, and I know like Journalnautical is not, but these were all super cool people that I was just starting to get to know. Some really good people inside of here. My Instagram followers, I was still growing my account at this point, so I had 500 followers at the end of December of 2017, and I got to 900 by January 23rd of 2018. So a good steady growth was happening at the time. So my first weekly spread of the year is all right here for you. Was focusing on this week. I had small space inside of here for my tasks and what was going on, a little next week section over here, and then I had just pasted in something that I saw online, just a cool little like geometric fox looking guy, and just paste him right into my journal. I will never forget this one, and there's a very specific reason to that, is that this was one of my first Plan With Me's that I ever recorded and put on YouTube. And I will forever remember that one because people were really not happy with me about this because I spent so much time creating all of these lines in here, and they were like, why would you do that in here when you could just buy a dated planner and you wouldn't have to create this for yourself? Like, that's such a waste of time. And I don't disagree with them in the fact that you're absolutely right. If I was using this spread all of the time and I was just recreating it week to week, I totally agree with you. I should totally buy a dated planner. But the reality is that I don't do that. Every week is different, and that's one of the things I love the most about bullet journaling. I did like this one because I was really focused on time tracking and meetings and things that were going on. There was tasks and to-dos that were happening, but for whatever reason, they were only a handful a day, so I didn't need a lot of space for them, which it's funny because looking back, 2 years later in 2020, almost 3 years later, this is totally flipped now on how I work. It's another weekly spread that I had. I kept a lot of like the high level events and tasks over here on the left, and then I just focused on what needed to be done this week and then what needed to be done the following week. And for a few weeks I did this goal of the week, and for me at this point it was making good food choices. It was the beginning of the year. I was probably trying to like work out and be on a diet or do something silly like that. All right, this is my favorite thing that I've ever done and learned about. It's called a hexadex. And there was a guy on Instagram that was doing these. He uses it a bit differently, but it's about time tracking, and it's about using these patterns inside of here, but they stand for specific things. So like as you go throughout your day, if you're like reading, if you're doing work, or you're eating or sleeping or whatever, each one of those items would have a pattern. So what I did is I took that idea and I just turned it into a scheduler for myself. So every day started at 8, and then you would go around this hexadex here and bring you to about 6 o'clock when I would end my day. And then what I would do is I would just, as the day went on, I would just take some time to like doodle and put in some patterns in here. I just love the way that it looks. Like, it did take a little bit to like set these up like once for the week, but I just absolutely loved how this worked out and that I could get from 8 to 6 o'clock inside of this with my schedule. Had my things going on for this week as well. You couldn't really capture tasks over here, so I had them in this spot, and then the goal of this week was not to get sick, and who knows why. It was probably a kid or something else. This is another one of my more popular spreads. If I look back through the likes, maybe it was at the time, maybe just the likes are totally off on Instagram now. They probably are. But this was another just weekly spread that I really liked. it's funny, the inspiration from this actually came from a shampoo bottle. I was in like Ulta or something like that with my wife, and she was shopping around for some product, and I saw these cool like molecule looking deals, and I started using them. And then it's funny because now that I look at this, they look like prescription bottles. And I'm sure there's some type of pill out there, so who knows what this actually looks like. Very similar, still looking at time tracking and events and things like that were going on throughout the day. This here was just a weekly that I did. I was starting to explore using Tombow brush pens as watercolor, which I still love to do. I was also really big into trying to figure out how to draw these mountains. So this was just a piece that I did for February. Over here is just one of my collection pages. So if you don't know anything about me just yet, hi, my name is Mark, and I am a plantaholic. I have a lot of succulents and a lot of house plants, and a lot of them were at work. So I was keeping a feeding log of when I was watering them, and then I was just coloring in the days there. Drew a little shop of horrors over here, inspired deal. This was also my first time using watercolor inside of my bullet journal, and it did okay. It still, ghosted through. This paper isn't the best in the entire world, but it still did pretty cool, and I absolutely love it. This is one of those spreads I was trying to do kind of like a morning, afternoon, and evening type deal. I remember drawing in all of these squares at first, and then it just felt very boxy, and then for whatever reason I came in and put all the dashed lines behind this and used watercolor in between them. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's very colorful, that's for darn sure. Just very busy. This is one of my other Instagram trackers that I did, another one of probably my most favorite of all time things that I've ever done in my bullet journal. This took a really long time to figure out how this was going to play out on the page because I wanted them to each connect, and I remember brainstorming with a handful of people that I was like, hey, this is my idea, help me think this through. So the way that this worked, if you want to know or you want to create one for yourself, is that when I hit that milestone, I put the date inside of here. So I hit 1,000 followers on Instagram on January the 30th of 2018. And then what I would do is each one of these stood for 25 more followers. So I had 1,025, 50, 75, and then I went to 1,100, and then I filled this in. And then I did that all the way through and connected them all the way to the point where I finished it out when I got to 1.6 in April of 2018. This is another one of those weekly spreads. Still continuation with the hexagons. I kind of have a little bit of a problem. I really like hexagons. I don't know why. It's just a cool geometric shape. But same deal, days of the week, and I was really focusing again on a lot of time tracking, obviously, and schedules. And I kind of want to do this again now just to take a look at my weekly calendar because it is a mess right now. There's some more hexadexes. What I did here is just went over them with some blue ink, whether it was watercolor or maybe I was using the Tombows again with some water to create that. So very similar overall look. Happy birthday to me, February 23rd. Shout out to anybody else that has a birthday in or around February. We're good people. It's another cool weekly, a lot of time tracking, just a real big focus on the main week, some things that are happening on the weekends and tasks throughout those days. Not a lot of tasks and notes on these though. I'm actually really surprised. It probably on a lot of these other pages, I'm not going to show you like a lot of the collection pages or my note pages here, but that's what I'm skipping over when you see these things. That's where I keep a lot of my notes are in collections because I have recurring meetings and other projects and things, so I just keep them all there versus keeping them in a rapid logging daily list. Just to give you a little bit of an example of what some of my collection pages look like, they're not overly visual. This is just some ideas that I had around new hires at my job. It was my responsibility at the time to bring in new people, so I really wanted to just do a better job of who was interviewing who, what were the questions that we were asking as we were going through and doing that. Over here is a monthly spread that I did. I don't do these all the times, but every now and again I will break out a little creativeness. So this was just a March coming in like a lion. Is that right? Out like a lamb. I forget the saying, but March, lions, wind, all of that good stuff. I also had just gotten a new watercolor set for my birthday from my wife. So look at that watercolor shimmer. That's good stuff. Another collection page. So this is when I was starting to do keto. I'm not still on keto. I really actually liked the program, to be very honest with you. But this was helpful for me to just break down my intake. So again, another collection page that I have that wasn't going in a note. I have this inside of my index to refer to often, especially as I was getting started with it. It was important for me to know the breakdowns. So just to show you an example there. Some kind of a crazy weekly going on here. Who knows? But more time tracking, more calendars, and a little bit of colors here. I think I was starting to color code inside of here a bit more. So this is probably working meetings. I have a different color over here for admin work. And this was just helping me time block out my day to make sure I was getting to the things that I needed to get to. And also I was tracking daily tasks and notes here. So that worked out pretty cool. I like that. Similar, I was obviously experimenting a lot with this, so it's cool to look back on these here, but I kept everything on the outside of these pages and then all of my notes and everything here in the middle. And it was also a split between the end of March and the beginning of April, so I probably did this intentionally as well. And this just goes to show you that not all ideas work out well, but this is where I started to use a lot of color coding inside of my future log. So if we look over in here in April, I had a lot of events happening for my kids. So just to show you as an example, when you set up your monthly log, as I did here, I was pulling this information from here and bringing it in here. So I was using color coding just to remind myself throughout the day what I was doing and how it's getting done. Here we go with another weekly here. So events, I was fooling around with running lists. You'll start to see me experimenting more with running lists in the very near future. I was just starting to learn more about them and I did like them. And then more of my scheduled time here. Crazy week, more running lists. I was experimenting, like I said, and then going into some stamps. I think this is my first stamp set here, everyone. I do like stamps. I have a lot of them. I don't use them as much as I should, but they're all here. I like to experiment instead of my bullet journals. A running list, essentially, if you haven't used one before, is just a way for you to just keep all of your notes and your to-dos in a vertical layout, but the days of the weeks in which they're happening, you're marking out here. So if they had to be done on a certain day, you would put it underneath that day, you would cross them out, you were done. But all of the same basic bullet journal method is inside of here, dots and migration and crossing them out when they're done. I think I got some, it wasn't washi tape exactly, because this doesn't look like washi tape, but I think at the time too, I couldn't find any washi tape that was like a guy's washi tape. Everything was very floral and pinks and purples and things like that. And that's obviously not my aesthetic whatsoever inside of my bullet journals. So I think I just found some like gaffer's tape or something maybe and put that in here. Meh, it is what it is. Officially in the much more organized running list. So I started to get more of a hang of it and I started to add more structure to these pages. And I did something cool over here, it looks like with scheduling as well. So this was my life pretty much. I had running list for tasks and to-dos, and then scheduling work and meetings and everything else that comes along with that. Let's see what we got going on here. More official running lists here. So as you can see, just using each one of these. So I would skip every other line with the highlighter here, so that way I could do a better job of keeping track of where things were. Because if I go back to like this running list, it's all over the place and it's hard to see what day you were trying to accomplish things. So I started to organize around myself a little bit more and get very clear on what I was trying to accomplish. This here is just a bad unused tracker. I was trying to create something cool with succulents and that just did not work out very well. I made it to 2,000 followers in July, and then I just didn't use this anymore just because it was, I think it's ugly. I don't really like the way it looks at all, especially with something like the hexagons earlier and you go to something like this and it looks like poo-poo. So some more running lists. I was playing around with some hand lettering as well. I must have gotten some type of a new marker and was just exploring with those here. And then just notes. Again, I just wanted to show you, I can actually show you this versus some of the other ones, but this is what my handwriting looks like. And you know, it's not very pretty, but it does its job. Weekly here. This page, it seems very simple, but it has a really deep meaning. So I remember this time I was in just a bad mental space. Things were probably happening at work that I wasn't happy with. Maybe I wasn't super happy about what I was designing, or I think this week I just didn't do a good job of like keeping up with bullet journaling as a whole. And I got fed up and I just wrote down like, just turn the page. Like, don't get mad. Don't get upset at it. Like, we're just going to turn the page and go to whatever's next. So that's what I did there. This was a bit of a really cool, just open weekly. So if you're ever looking for inspiration on how any of this stuff looks, or, you know, just using big parts of your pages, this just breaks it down into quarters, right? Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it just breaks the page down into quarters, but I just used it with the 6 here like I usually do for like the weekend, Monday through Friday weekend, and then a big old space for notes. And then I just doodled in a bunch of stuff. I think I was actually inspired by one of those adult coloring books that I saw. So it's just kind of like shells and circles, and I like the way that this one looks. Definitely a lot of space for notes and tasks and things like that. This was a fun June monthly. I remember being inspired by someone else that I saw. I can't remember who it is now because that was 2018 and I have a terrible memory, but just a cool monthly here. You just put out horizontal 30 days within June, and then what I did is just did some lettering behind it with a cool font. Obviously I'm getting into like summer and underwater stuff here, and then what's cool is then you just pull out the days of the week and some lines to the events or things that are happening to remind you of. And I think it looks very cool. This is just a one pager that I did, nothing super fancy there, but I just like to show you that it's not always awesome. Sometimes it's just there. Some split days here. Why, I'm not really sure what was going on here. They were very, very thin little lines here. Probably just fooling around with one pagers to see how they would work out, which I don't think that they really work out. This is the July. Again, something else that I think I saw on lines. It's just a circular approach here versus the horizontal that we saw before. And same deal, pulling out some important dates throughout the month. While we're at it, let's keep our bullet journal this way. So this is one of the first times that I think I actually did this type of layout. Just broke it down into 3 columns, 1, 2, and 3. We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then a weekend here, and then some notes and tasks and to-dos. Just playing with some lines and some space. I don't think that this is the most functional one. It's not a lot of space. It's definitely a more highly visual one. So I don't know if I would really consider this a success, but it looks cool. I think I would probably give myself more room nowadays and tighten this up a bit more. A lot of space taken up by shapes, but still just exploring and trying things out. And then a running list, another running list here for you. So I really like these. These are super cool and super fun. I haven't done one in a while. I may or may not get back to it. While they are really cool looking and they might work for you, in the work that I'm doing now versus what I was doing in 18, I have a lot more stuff going on throughout the week between notes, tasks, and things like that. So this might get a little bit nuts, but still very cool. And then that's the end. The last thing I wrote inside of this bullet journal, aside from some pet test, is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which is the golden rule, and just a good reminder as you are out there doing your thing, being good to each other, and having a good time. So there we go. So that's the end of this bullet journal. January 2018 through July 2018. All right, thank you so much for walking through that along with me. Hopefully you found some inspiration through spreads that I was doing. Also a little bit of a deeper dive into what was going on with me at that time. Bullet journals are really, really helpful for looking back. I love to go back through old bullet journals and just kind of read through them. They're kind of like little snippets into life at that time. Who was I working with? What was I doing? What was going on around me? And what was inspiring me at the time? If you'd like to see more videos like this on my channel or have any questions or comments, make sure to leave those comments in the comment section below. I love interacting with you on here. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram at menwhobullet and also online, menwhobullet.com. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, like, and click that bell. That way I can let you know when I have more videos coming up in the very near future. Have a great one.